Hello everyone. Today is August 17th and I'm making, a surprise live video. I didn't announce it before, but today is Marcus Garvey's birthday and I'm going to be making a live talking about the life of Marcus Garvey and about the legacy that he left behind for all of us. So before I get started on the topic, I'm just going to make a few announcements. So the first announcement is, it is also my elephant's birthday, Fudge Bucket Elephant, and I made sure to put some type of Pan-Afrikan Rasta hat on him. He is also wearing a button that says it's my birthday smile, it's fake. So I got Fudge Bucket in maybe 2009, so I'm not going to calculate how old he is right now. He's just very young. So he also shares a birthday with Marcus Garvey, so if you have him as a friend on your Facebook page, you can. I'm wearing my Marcus Garvey button that people keep trying to take away from me, but they will never get my button, okay? I don't have any artwork of Marcus Garvey to sell, but I do have a postcard that I made a long time ago of his wife, Amy Jacques-Garvey. And if you click on the link to my Zazzle store, you can go in the collections and find out about how to get that postcard. But anyway, now we are going to get to the topic at hand, Marcus Garvey and his life. I wrote down a couple of notes so that I could, stay on track and be consistent. Maybe you know some of the information I'm going to tell you, and maybe you don't know anything about Marcus Garvey, but we're all going to learn together tonight. So Marcus Garvey was born in St. Ann's Bay in 1887. His father, it says, was a stonemason who was also a maroon. Now, as far as maroons, I haven't read much about them, but I believe they were Africans who had been kidnapped during the Great Ma'afa and ran to the hills. I don't really remember the story from the top of my head. So his father was a stonemason who was a maroon, and his mother was a, gently spoken, devout Christian. So Marcus Garvey was the last of 7 children. Most of his mother's children died during childbirth. The only sibling that he had that was alive was his sister named Indiana. So Marcus Garvey, when he was a teenager, he became an apprentice of a printer. Oh, hi, Nina. Yeah, he became the apprentice of a printer in Kingston, Jamaica, and that is when he became involved in politics. Now, I think maybe he became involved in politics just based off of the stories he may have read in, the printing press. You get inspiration from various places when you have certain types of jobs. So if he was in the media or involved in some type of media, I'm sure that new ideas were starting to flow to him during those formative years. So it says in 1910, when he was 23 years old, he decided that he was going to travel. Now, during his travels, he noticed around the world, or everywhere that he traveled, that people of color were treated in, inhumane ways. And this experience inspired him to take up the cause for his people. And I find that very interesting because even today, you might go to certain places and you'll notice that people of color are just treated, basically in inhumane ways. I remember as a child reading about colonizers taking over certain parts of the world, and most of the people that were there, the indigenous people, a lot of them, moved to certain parts of the country, mostly the South, and they were also had a higher melanin content as well, so you didn't really see them, or they weren't presented in the media for people to see. So I thought that was very interesting. Anyway, he was inspired to take up the cause of people of color, of Black people. So as a result of his travels, he went to England and started writing for Dost Muhammad Ali. I have not researched who that was, and I'm going to research him after the video. So Dost Muhammad Ali had a newspaper that was called African Times and the Orient Review, and it was basically targeted for Pan-Africans and Pan-Asian people. During his time in London, Marcus Garvey read Up From Slavery. Now, if you don't know what Up From Slavery was, it is the autobiography of Booker T. Washington, and he talks about how he started off being enslaved and how he, I guess, came to found Tuskegee Institute and all of the labor and inspiration that went into that. So after reading Up From Slavery, Marcus Garvey was even more inspired, and this solidified his passion for helping people of color around the world. He wanted to meet Booker T. Washington, but he was not able to meet Booker T because he died. Booker T. Washington died. So one quote that I have from Marcus Garvey, I guess inspired by Up From Slavery, it says, "Where is the black man's government? Where is his king and kingdom? Where is his president?" These people just keep sending me notifications. Anyway, I'm unpaused. It says, "Where is the black man's government? Where is his king and kingdom? Where is his president, his country, his ambassador, his army, his navy, his men of big affairs? I could not find them, and then I declared I will help make them." So, in 1914, Marcus Garvey founded the Universal Negro Improvement Association and African Communities League. I wonder if somebody's there. Is anybody still here? Because I don't know if I'm, permanently paused. But anyway, I will continue. And their motto for this organization was one God, one aim, one destiny. The UNIA is still in existence to this day. It isn't as big as when Marcus Garvey first founded it, but it is still in existence. In fact, oh, hi, Nina. Okay, thanks. So, in fact, a lot of people were inspired by Marcus Garvey's visions, and those who joined him were called Garveyites. So, some Garveyites in history were Malcolm X's father. Malcolm X's father was a Garveyite, and he was actually killed for being a Garveyite. They laid him on the railroad tracks and let the train cut him in half because he was, signing up people for the Black Star Line. The Black Star Line was a fleet of ships that Marcus Garvey planned to use to take Black people back to Africa because they were being mistreated in the United States. So anyway, as I said, Marcus Garvey wanted to meet Booker T. Washington because he wanted to build something similar to Tuskegee Institute. Now, Tuskegee Institute was, started from the ground up by Booker T. Washington and his students. Like, they made the bricks, they took care of everything. Tuskegee Institute is still in existence to this day. They also, as I mentioned in another live, they also kept documentation of all of the various lynchings that happened in the United States. But anyway, he wasn't able to meet Booker T. Washington. In 1916, he went to New York and started speaking in Harlem. And this began a 5-month tour where he spoke in 38 states. I'm just like, dude, literally 38 states. You almost spoke to all of America in 5 months during the turn of the century. I'm flabbergasted. That's amazing. That is true passion. And that, I believe, is how Marcus Garvey's message spread across the entire United States. So in 1918, he founded the Harlem branch of the UNIA, the Universal Negro Improvement Association. Then, not only did he have the Black Star Line, he also had a newspaper called Negro World, and he also had the Universal Negro Improvement Association's Negro Factories Corporation. So not only was he writing for Black people, not only was he trying to take Black people back to Africa, he was also giving them jobs during the 1920s. So he was, I guess, basically doing job creation, because his whole thing was, you should not be able to rely on somebody else for your survival. You are relying on a group of people who keep mistreating you. You are relying on them for funds. You are relying on them for housing. You have to be self-sufficient. Nobody respects somebody who isn't self-sufficient. I guess I'm just saying this in Marcus Garvey's mind, how I think he would have thought. Because when you have a group of oppressed people, it's very easy for somebody to feel a sense of worthlessness and hopelessness. It can be taught, and you operate in that manner. But when you give somebody empowerment, they are able to do things higher than what they thought they could have done before. So in 1920, there was a convention. There was about 2,500 delegates from around the world in Madison Square Garden, and this is Marcus Garvey's event. And they gathered at Madison Square Garden in the UNIA's Liberty Hall. There was a parade with thousands and thousands of people. Around that time, the Black nationalist flag, I guess that's what they call it, the flag, was unveiled. And the colors were red, black, and green. So this is my flag. It's red, black, and green. During Kwanzaa, I guess Maulana Karenga's switched the colors. So instead of having red first, you have black. There's, I guess, a couple of interpretations of what the colors mean. So for some people, red represents the struggle, but for others, red represents you are African by birthright, or you are Black by birthright. Then the black represents the people, and for some, green represents the motherland or Africa, whereas for others, it represents hope for the future. So there's two different flags. There's this one, the UNIA's version with the red first, and then there is Maulana Karenga's version for Kwanzaa, which has black, red, and green. Anyway, so this is when it all unfortunately falls apart for Marcus Garvey, because you know, when you reach a certain level, there are going to be some people who will sabotage you, even if you are doing something that benefits humanity. So he was indicted on charges of mail fraud due to the Black Star Line. I guess they were accusing him of not giving people their money or something. I really don't know the details, all of the details of it. But he was indicted on charges of mail fraud, and there was this whole campaign called Garvey Must Go, and it was led by rivals in his organization and outside of his organization. And I just find it just very uncanny that you see the same story over and over. No matter where you read in Black history, there's always some hater somewhere. And that is why, if you are going to be doing something to help the cause of people of African descent worldwide, you have to be very careful. You have to act very strategically, even if you are not the face of your own, organization or your own team. But this caused Marcus Garvey to be convicted and imprisoned in Atlanta in 1925. I don't know how long he spent in jail. There's something that said he was commuted for 2 years, but I don't know if it meant he was in jail for 2 years or he was off jail for, I don't know. But during this time of imprisonment, his second wife, now a lot of people think he only had one wife, which is Amy Jacques-Garvey. This is her. Actually, she is his second wife. He had a first wife. Her name was also Amy, and that's a very interesting story that you can look up on your own. But his second wife was his secretary, and she is actually the one that kept his organization alive and thriving and maintaining it while he was in prison. I think she helped to also promote his book, the what's it called? The Philosophy of Marcus Garvey. Very intelligent book. I have to get a copy of it because when I worked at the library, it was always being borrowed. That man was a genius. Anyway, I digress. So after he gets out of prison, they decide to deport him. So he gets deported. He goes back to Jamaica. So he held the UNIA in Canada and Jamaica, and then he migrated to England in the late 1930s. And it says in some of my readings, and I don't have any more information about this, but it says that he criticized Haile Selassie, who was the Ethiopian emperor during Mussolini's invasion. I don't know what Marcus Garvey said. I personally don't know much about Haile Selassie. I've gotten like mixed reviews about him. But whatever Marcus Garvey said, it was enough to make people respond to him in a very vicious way. So in 1940, he had a stroke which left him partially paralyzed. And I don't know if this is true or not, but apparently they say, reportedly, that the stroke was caused because some vicious reporter decided to write Marcus Garvey's obituary in the paper, and Marcus Garvey read it and had a stroke. But other than that, the legacy of Marcus Garvey is still relevant to this day. He empowered Black people. He caused them or inspired them to see themselves in a new light. Before the whole Black is Beautiful movement in the 60s, are like, Black is beautiful and I'm Black and I'm proud. Marcus Garvey was doing the same thing. He was telling people that they were beautiful. He was telling people that you can do anything that you place your mind to. Africa for the Africans at home and abroad, and all these different mottos like image representation. Yeah, representation, image, if that's even a term. Image representation. How you are represented in the world. Usually people will treat you in that manner. Even to this day, you have people in the world doing blackface of Black people, okay? Like the Korean group, the Bubble Sisters, they performed in blackface. You have other people like taking reign of how we present ourselves in social media and elsewhere, speaking for us instead of letting us speak for ourselves. So Marcus Garvey gave his people the inspiration and empowerment to take hold of how they represent themselves around the world. It's the spirit of Kujichagulia, self-determination, to define ourselves, name ourselves, create for ourselves, and speak for ourselves instead of being defined, named, created for, and spoken for by others. And that is the legacy of Marcus Garvey that we have to continue to this day. We cannot wait for somebody else to love us. We cannot wait for somebody else to accept us. True love and true acceptance comes from yourself. When you love yourself, you will operate in a different way. If you love yourself, you will not have a hater like Marcus Garvey had, just completely obliterate his organization, which would have probably helped the hater in the long run. You know, we won't have that crabs in a barrel mentality. So that is all I have to say for today. Happy birthday to Marcus Garvey. Happy birthday to my little elephant fudge bucket. Happy birthday. Actually, the Pan-Afrikan or the Black nationalist flags birthday was August 13th. So happy belated birthday to you as well, flag. And I will all talk to you later. If you haven't gotten my book, which I'm promoting again, it's my book about Emmett Till. I have it on my website, which I have posted in the description box. I am also going to be doing another live around between August 28th and August 31st. And it will be about Emmett Till again, but this time the focus will be on missing children because Emmett Till was kidnapped. So that is going to be our discussion topic for that time. So you all have a beautiful night, and I will talk to you later. And Fudge Bucket says goodbye too. Happy birthday to everyone. Bye-bye.